most dancers in competition world do not grow up to be professional dancers or to be in this industry at all.
I don't think it has to do with age. I think it just has to do with like them really wanting, yeah, desire and passion for it.
What do you think you're paying for? Because I think sometimes parents think they're paying for wins when you're paying for dance education. Welcome back to season 5 of Beyond the Steps, presented by Apollo Performance and Turning Point Dance Creations. We've got another fantastic conversation today and 2 great guests. Bree, tell everyone who we have with us.
We're so excited to have both Chris Suchan and Liz Borum from Platinum Dance Events. Liz is a performer, educator, choreographer. She's working on stuff now, adjunct professor, podcast, content creator, and the Platinum National Dance Competition, Platinum Dance Experience, and Platinum Dance Collective creative director. Is that the right title? I want to make sure I get it right. And then Chris is a dancer turned mentor and entrepreneur and the executive director of Platinum National Dance Competition, Platinum Dance Experience, and Platinum Dance Collective. You guys are some of my favorite people in this world. So I am so pumped to finally have you on the show. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having us. We're so excited. You're one of our favorite people too.
I mean, we're the best trade show neighbors ever. So if you ever go to a trade show and see Apollo and Platinum, that is where we are bringing the energy. I'm just saying, look for us. But no, we're so pumped because you guys really run world-class events and you really put education as a priority for everyone that walks through your doors, and you make it fun. And we don't take ourselves too seriously, but you have such a respect for the world that we're in with the arts and dance specifically. So what is the key to balancing bringing that humor in, whether it be on your social media platforms or on a competition weekend, so that that doesn't get lost, so that we do keep the fun in, what can become really intense weekends for these kiddos?
It's just dance competition, right? So never to belittle what we do. What we do is, I think, very valuable and important in the world and in the industry and in child development. We're really proud of what we do. But we also have to see what we do and have a little bit of perspective of what we do and understand that this is an industry where it's all opinion based. It's all what 3 people decide they like on a Saturday afternoon at 2:30. Like, who knows, right? It really comes down to that, unfortunately. I mean, that would be one of the negatives, I guess, to dance competition, although that's the only one because there's no negatives to dance competition. You got to keep it fun. You have to keep it fun. It's children on stage with a lot of emotion and a lot of adrenaline and energy, and you just have to stay at that level and just, hey guys, have fun. At the end of the day, you're going to get whatever adjudication you walk away with that day. Tomorrow it's going to be different. Last week it's going to be different. So whatever you can do to just keep it fun in the moment, that's what I think we're trying to do, right, Liz?
Yeah. And it's like that saying, like your vibe attracts your tribe. It's like there is like, a very intense competitive side to competitive dance, but I think that as a whole, our company's motto and mission is just to provide a really safe and fun environment for kids to be able to come and perform and get valuable feedback. And so I think that that being kind of at the press, like the principal mission of our company, makes it really important to then, not that we're not taking it seriously, but then to do just that, like to just make people feel comfortable and to bring in that kind of like lighthearted, to be able to laugh at yourselves, to be able to like, a mistake on stage isn't the end all be all. It's a place to grow from. And I think, yeah, so I think that the humor kind of comes like along with the territory of just kind of like wanting not to make fun of what we do or to take light of what we do, but to just offer comfort and like, just kind of be like, I think there in humor, there's vulnerability. Which I think it also translates to what we're doing on stage. Like it's a very vulnerable moment out there. So to be able to kind of like laugh at it or kind of do whatever, especially, you mentioned our social media, we do a lot of kind of like not laughing at dance, but kind of like, hey, we're like, some of the stuff we do is.
I love it. I think you do it perfectly. It's if not my favorite account, one of my favorite accounts. It is, you guys just nail it every time and it's so perfect. And if people aren't laughing at it, they're missing the point. Like that is what you guys do. So I absolutely adore it. Keep doing it. I love it so much.
For sure. I think that, it's the quintessential we're laughing because it's true. It's funny because it's true. Yeah, that's what I love it as a multiple time attendee of platinum events with my students. I definitely love it. We want to talk about the value of dance competitions because I think there are some studios and parents that are struggling sometimes to see the value in a dance competition. So, what are the key benefits of dance competitions? What do they offer studios and their dancers beyond the platinum, crystal, titanium, double ruby diamond award? Like, what do they offer beyond that?
So, yeah, it's this is a conversation, weirdly enough, that Chris and I have more often than we would like because it's kind of like we're not trying to plug what we do, but both, Chris as our owner, and also me kind of being in with a huge part of this as well. We're both like dance professionals or have been dance professionals. And so growing up in the competition world wasn't about a trophy now. And so I think that it's really easy to get locked into like people just seeing that it's just about trophies and winning. But I think that it's important that you realize that like the value of you getting to practice what you're going to do in real life on a stage. There's so little opportunities for dancers to be on a stage outside of like a recital, a spring show, and all that kind of a school performance and all that. And then all of a sudden you want to launch yourself into this professional career, or you want to um, do something in this dance industry, and you're asked to audition and then perform on a stage, and you've only had like this much practice. Like it's about learning to perform and getting really confident and comfortable, and being able to practice your craft in a safe space where people who are educators or knowledgeable of what you're doing are watching you and only there to support and give valuable feedback for what you're up there doing, that then you can take and turn around and then put into practice. And it's just an exchange. And, it's competition. I think it kind of, competition puts us in kind of that like, well, there's other school sports that get to go and like see and kind of put where they are in the world, in kind of in a placement, or, they play a soccer and get a goal or whatever. And, dance is so subjective. I think this is the only way to make this work, where you can kind of be able to kind of see where you're at, perform, put yourself in front of other people. I know like back in my day, we didn't have, social media and all that. And so the only time that I would get to be inspired or to see other people or to kind of know if my level of talent was like in with other people was when we go to like a nationals or some sort of competition or convention. It was always like, oh my gosh, yes. And then it would kind of push you to rise to that level. And that's kind of where I started my career. And, I think it's still valuable. And I think sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in that, like crystal, double platinum and all that. And to kind of like, but I think that we have to, at the end of the day, that is all designed just to make you want to be better.
Well, and it's funny because I can hear the people at home going, well, what if, my kid's not going to be a professional dancer and that's not even what they want to do? And the answer to that would be, in my opinion, yes, but that sets them up to be a confident human being, to be able to take a stage. I'm going through this with my 8 and 11-year-old now, where my 8-year-old just took the stage for the first time in a piano recital, and she was so confident going into it. And the minute she approached that stage, she was just like, I mean, a ball of nerves. And to watch her go through that process on her own, and it instilled a tremendous amount of confidence. And when she was done, the pride she had in herself for doing that big thing, right? Like, so no matter what you're going to do with your life after dance, being able to walk into a room and command a room and hold your head high and exude confidence. That's a skill that has to be built. That's not something that comes naturally to most people, right? So I think there's benefits there too.
Absolutely. Yeah. To what Liz said, this is our soccer team. Like, I think most people can relate to that they grew up playing soccer, baseball, whatever that team sport was. This is it for dance. And, to go to your studio and to learn these skills and then have an outlet on a stage, that's where the outlet is. It happens to be on a stage. It's not on a soccer field. So to go out there with your team and to experience all those emotions, it's the best thing. And to have it finish with applause is also just the best thing, right? Yeah, there's so much to gain from it. So I understand too, it's an expensive sport, but you get out of it what you put into it. So if most dancers in competition world do not grow up to be professional dancers or to be in this industry at all. I wanted it, but I wanted it because I love dance so much. I wanted to be in it forever. But you learn your passions and you learn maybe, oh, you know what? I don't want to be on a stage. I want to be backstage. Or I don't know. You learn so much about yourself when you're put into these vulnerable, adrenaline filled moments of like, yep, never again. Or yes, this is the only place I want to be is on a stage.
Absolutely. I say this to all my parents who are coming into a company, it's travel dance, just like travel soccer or travel basketball. Let's call it travel dance. Forget calling it whatever, it's travel dance. So the same way you put your other kids in travel baseball and you go all over the country and you sit all day at a tournament, never knowing whether they're going to play to the next round. Let's keep that same energy when we're talking about dance, and that's a very hard concept for people to come with. And also thinking about, oh, they're never going to be a professional dancer. Well, they take math and they're not going to be a mathematician, or they play soccer and they're not going to be a professional soccer player. So why are we even having this conversation? It's about what's happening now, live in the present.
A professional, it is a very small percentage. It's just about creating an environment where you're able to take feedback, and you're also like, the push for yourself, I think too, is so valuable. But also, like, it's an art is meant to be shared, and the only place that we can really share it is a stage. And so I think that's the most important part, is a outlet to share art.
So Liz, I have a specific question for you. Competition readiness. I get parents that are like, yeah, my kids too. So can they compete? No, your kid cannot compete. That's not happening. So how can a parent decide if their child, what are the signs that your child is ready? Is it just an age? I'm gonna say no to that. But what are the signs?
Yeah, funny enough, Chris and I have very different competition experiences growing up. I like hated solos. I wanted to be a part of a group dance. Chris thrived in a solo moment. He wanted to dance by him. I think I maybe had one, and I just didn't enjoy it. I mean, that's not necessarily talking about competition readiness, but it does kind of give you that you know band of like where people are. Like, I think that your dancer needs to be ready to mature, not mature as an like age just has something to do with it. But if you're in a kindergartner or in first grade and you see that they're really focused and really loving it, I think that that's important. They have to like love it, and it's not just you pushing them into something kind of like, well, you got to do it now. It's kind of like, no, I really love dance. I'm going to try it. I think it has to be the kid kind of wanting and seeing and doing and wanting to go beyond that. And then I think that like as a parent, I don't know, I don't have a kid that dances. I'm just speaking off the cuff here, but I think that as a parent, there's a responsibility to then know the value, the lessons like we just talked about, and be able to have a child like understand that. Yeah, babe, we're just going out to have fun. I don't, whatever happens, happens. But I think I think that has to be a mutual understanding. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question about readiness. I don't think it has to do with age. I think it just has to do with like them really wanting, yeah, desire and passion for it.
Let's go to the true value of for the parents, for the dancers, for the studio owners. What should they be focusing on post competition? Because when we look at the competition experience, there's a lot you can take away. We've already talked about when you're ready to compete and what dancers get out of the experience of competing. But post competition, what are the things that you think should be focused on most after we come away from the experience?
Definitely from the dancer's point of view, what did it feel like? As a dance teacher, as soon as they would get off the stage, I would always say, "How'd that feel?" And it was if they're like, then I'm immediately setting expectations moving forward into awards or something like that, right? So if they're like, I did, then I would kind of be like, no, I thought you did. I thought you were great, right? Or whatever to temper those emotions, but also like, but let's not forget all the things you messed up or all the things that you know that you just did, right? That I'm not going to harp on, but you know that you just did that. So let's also calibrate our expectations when it comes to awards. I think the way we train, the way I look at my business as a dance competition, I would say that the judges' feedback is the product that we're selling. So I always deal with that with the training of judges and, hey guys, you're the last impression of a dance competition back in their studio, when the dance teacher's with the dancer listening. You're the very last thing, the last feeling of that dance competition. um, so I think the big takeaway is the feedback that they get, and the overall impression that that judge is kind of getting from your performance on stage. I always try to talk to my dancer as well right before if I have a solo or a group, whatever. If I'm in the studio with that person listening to the feedback, I try to calibrate that as well by saying, "Hey guys, I'm gonna maybe not agree with everything the judge says. I'm gonna tell you that now, and if I don't, I'm gonna kind of tell you why I don't agree with them or something like that. Like this is their opinion and it doesn't mean that they're right, but we're going to listen to it because we want to see what their perspective of what your performance was, right? So as we're going along and if they're like, "Oh, watch this or watch that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I thought you did a great job there. So that's okay. Don't worry about it." I think that we as a studio, as the dancer, as the teacher, we have to value the feedback that you're getting after this competition because that is the product. And I don't think that we should just throw it away and say they don't know what they're talking about. I hear that a lot, of like, they don't know, they didn't see. No, they did see. They did watch you and they are watching you. And this is what they saw.
Well, and the flip side of that is that the chronic problem of not getting any feedback. You hear so many events where the judges are singing the song on the microphone or there's it's complete silence the entire way through and you're craving that feedback. So when you get it, it's almost like, you have to take it for value. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, as human beings, the word feedback is what we want to hear compliments. I don't think people love hearing feedback when they're negative things. And the design of a dance competition is to offer feedback. Now we ask you to sandwich the positives and the constructive, right? But we're generally inclined to put up our defenses to anything wrong with what we're doing. So, or we have to make an immediate excuse for it, right? So I encourage studios to just be like, okay, this might be hard to listen to with any negative commentary, right? But just to embrace it and not to discredit it immediately, because I just see that a lot.
Yeah, that's surprising. I think a lot of times you're going to multiple competitions in a season, and we would always space ours out we would receive that feedback, get it back into the studio. And Melissa, I know you do this too. And we would fix the things that they talked about. If there was a certain area of choreography that just didn't hit right, or there's a formation that was off, or, just this is section, you see it so much with your own eyes and you get almost desensitized in a way. So when somebody else looks at it with a fresh pair of eyes and fresh feedback, it's so helpful to come back if you're open to it and you take the ego out of it to kind of revamp, and have another crack at it the next time you go out, and then when you fix it, did that work? Was it enough? So I love that. You're spot on.
It's funny too as a teacher because we have these kids that we get hyper focused, like you said, on them specifically, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, just stretch your leg right there," right? And then for the judge to not comment on it is kind of funny, validating. Like, I need to let this go. I need to not worry about this and worry about the other things that the judge actually is seeing. Yeah,
Also perspective, like you're watching all your dances like this close in a studio. And so now to get them on a stage, like things look different. They're spread out. Spacing might be off. Like your studio might not be the size of our stage. Like there might be some things that you didn't catch at your studio. And I think that everything that Chris is saying is like spot on. But we're not, you know, dumb enough to think that like all the critiques that you get back are those super valuable critiques. Like I think that judges' critiques have gotten a little bit of a bad rap within the industry of just kind of being a bunch of nothing and not the valuable critiques. And, I will say that that is probably the most important thing about finding a competition is like, how are their critiques going to be? And we're not perfect. But we certainly put a lot into how we train our judges because that's the product. Like your question opened with how are you preparing them afterwards, like, or what do you need to do? What's the takeaway? It literally is these critiques because if you don't place, you just get your adjudication, you just spent 3 days at a competition, the value is the feedback. And so, it's again not a perfect model, but like you need to understand there's got to be some little nugget of information in those critiques that you need to be able to take away to implement back, to make this worth it. And so I think that that's what you need to train the dancers to think about. Like, guys, it's not what we do. Like, we got our, gold or whatever we got on stage. Let's go listen.
How do you transform feedback into fuel? How do you keep them in this growth mindset and not get discouraged when they hear those things? How do you keep them in that growth mindset space and confident and still wanting to move forward when they hear the negative?
We talk about giving feedback, and the art of like a great leader, like as dance teachers, that's your job, is to you're a coach. I mean, you're the one who has to, I don't know if there's a formula to it, but it is like, again, that's kind of what competition is designed for, is to get that feedback. So I think we have to kind of get our leaders to kind of be motivating in the fact that, like, hey, look how great this formation looks right here. Imagine if we would have just done this one thing. Guys, like, this is incredible. Or even as a choreographer or teacher, be willing to adjust. Maybe you're like, maybe not this, some of these critiques are just about your kids. Like, if they're over and over, you've got like an arabesque and their knees are just flying, bent because they're whipping the leg behind. Maybe you take the ego out of needing that moment to happen and you just go to a little low dégagé or a little tendu or something. Like, maybe there's something you gotta get. It's like, it's a team effort, and you gotta, like, your job as a choreographer and a teacher, as a teacher, is to technically push your kids and to get them where they need to be. As a choreographer, is to make your kids look the best that they can be. And as a student, it's for you to then be the best you can be. So it's like all those things have to kind of work together. And so I think that that's where the motivation lies. It's not just being like, well, you guys did a terrible job. Like, no, all right, guys, listen right here. They just keep telling you guys, no one's hitting this triple. Let's take it down to a double. I want to work with you. I want you to look great. Like, I just think it's not just a thing, a person. It's not about that. It's the soloist and the teacher in that moment. Sometimes the choreographer doesn't live in town, so they're just like, all right, like, let's work on the technique of this. Like, let me help you. I think that's how you motivate, to be willing to like adjust and to create systems and to help.
And I'm really hearing you say we have to model, like, if we want the kids to be receptive to the feedback, we have to model that ourselves and be receptive and enthusiastic. And like, this is not a bad thing. This is great. Now we have all this material to work with, right? So it's being that example for the kiddos as well, as goes a long way.
Because I'm in the studio with parents, and I direct the competition company. I got parents and students, and I want to talk about parents a little bit. I'm gonna direct this one at Chris, because I think he probably has a great perspective on this. I hear parents say some of the most harmful things when those kids come off stage, or after awards. What are some phrases or approaches that parents can use to help foster a healthy relationship with their competition results for their children?
I think what I always go back to, as the dance teacher, when the kid comes off the stage, is, how did that feel for you? The parent does not have although you parents out there, you think you know, you don't know. You don't know. I hate to tell you that, but you don't know. I would never go to a soccer match and after my 10th soccer match be like, I'm going to go coach the soccer team. I don't know soccer. I don't know, right? So parents, you have to try. I don't know why in the dance industry parents feel obliged to know everything. And I mean that with all due respect. Like, I get it. You sit there all day. That doesn't mean anything. So for the parent to just say to the child, how did that feel? Did you have fun? I always want to say, did you have fun? Because if you're not having fun, why are we here? What's the point of all of this? And adrenaline and the scary in the moment might not be fun, but later on, it's like, no, 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 I love that adrenaline moment. Like, I want to get back on stage because that is like the most fun of it all. But parents, you just gotta, you have to stop putting your opinion on what just happened on the kid. And one thing I'm learning more and more as an adult, I don't want feedback all the time. So I would love it if you would say, hey, I've got some feedback. Do you want it? So maybe talking to your kid and saying, hey, how did it feel? So it's not your opinion. How did it feel? Did you have fun? Great. I noticed a couple things. Do you want me to tell you what I noticed? And if the kid's like, no, mom, no, I don't. then let it be done. Let it be okay. Let's go get a hot dog at the concession stand and let's go hang out. I don't know. Parents, you just got to take a step back. I'm sorry because they're your pride and joy out there on the stage, but it's not you, it's them. That's them. It's them out there, right?
Right. And you also have to, I think I try to temper with my parent. What do you think you're paying for? Because I think sometimes parents think they're paying for wins when you're paying for dance education. That's what you're paying for. So what was the learning moment for your child in that performance? Not you didn't pay for a platinum or a first overall. You paid for the experience.
It all boils down to that, like, biased opinion of, like, of course, I have a son, he doesn't dance, but, like, I think he's the greatest thing in the world. Have I seen him fail at stuff? I sure have, but, like, again, that's the job of a parent.
A lot of times too, parents like to make us aware of the journey that their dancer has been on to get to the place that they've now been on the stage. That's great. I don't know, none of us know anyone's journey until they're showcasing what they're actually doing on the stage. So be okay with that. It's okay if they're on the road to greatness. They don't have to be great right now, right? We also can recognize the pathway and we can recognize the passion of a dancer on stage. And if they're technically not very good, but you can tell they love being out there, that's rewarding. And we're going to reward that.
Teen girl, like, not every, that was an exaggeration. Like, they come off the stage crying. Like, leave them alone for a second. Let them go through what they're going through. And then, it's just you can't fix all the problems in the world by giving immediate negative feedback to your dancer when they come off stage. Like,
Well, and it's interesting because that is part of the value of the experience that they're getting is learning how to work through the disappointment, how quickly they can bounce back from all of that, right? And the idea they had in their head versus what actually happened and managing all of those emotions to be able to get back out there and do it again and come back, be mentally strong through it all. And so again, it's that lesson. But yeah, I will say as a parent, it's really hard to remember. I'm famous for on the show constantly.
That is what happened. That is where you placed. That is the adjudication you got. So I'm not saying you should look at your child and be like, yeah, be better. Like, I'm not saying that, but accept what just happened. Accept it. You might not like what you got, but it is what you got. So what can we do? We'll listen to the critiques. We'll try to grow from it. But this is how do you feel right now? Are you ready to quit dance because you got a high gold? Or is this going to push you further? Did you have room to grow on stage? Or was that really in your mind the best performance you've ever given? Then maybe we have to rethink this because it was a high gold performance, right? These kids are smarter than we think they are, and we have to give them the credit to accept whatever happens, right?
and we go back to, like, subjectivity. It's like at any other point in the day or, tomorrow morning, your score's gonna be different. Like, we have to also, as parents, embrace, like, the idea that, like, there is so much opinion. We can't just kick a ball into a goal, like, and that be like, "That's the call, that's the verdict." So we have to, like, also be just willing and teach the lesson of, like, this is what the opinion was.
Well, let's move on to homework because I feel like based on this conversation, there's a lot of homework that is needed. Every week we give our viewers one small thing that they can do within the next 7 days between now and the next show to make some progress on one of the areas that we've talked about today. So I am going to start with Chris's homework, and you can direct it to parents, students, judges, teachers, whoever you want. What's your one little thing they can do between now and next week?
The one thing that they can do, encourage your dancer and the feeling that they felt on the stage, as opposed to all of the things, all of the quantifying things associated with it, placement, adjudication, all that. Let's focus instead on the feelings that we've had and the love and the passion and the drive for what we're doing, as opposed to the end result.
Liz, you're up. What's your homework and who's it for?
My homework is for teachers and students. I think that your homework is to get comfortable with receiving feedback. And just the practice of that. So whether it's, if two friends, if you guys want to get in there and you do your solo for your friend and they tell you what fix, if it's the studio director giving, the feedback, I think everyone just needs to be comfortable with getting feedback that isn't just like, oh, that was awesome. And then have the conversation of, what is our goal this competition season? What do we want out of it that isn't medal or adjudication based? But go ahead, since it's early on in our competition season, some probably haven't started yet. Like, have the conversation. What is our goal? Is our goal going to be that at the end of every competition, we take our feedback and we review it, and then we get to work really hard and we're going to build technique? Is the goal that, at least one of our competitions, we make it to the top 10? Okay, great. How are we going to get there? It's going to be this, it's all going to come back to the feedback. But like, what is the goal? I think we're just defining goals, defining things outside of like, we want to get a platinum on everything. I think defining the goals right now is a good way to start. And just the practice of feedback, receiving it, getting it before you hit the stage.
Love it. Well, you have your homework from Chris and Liz. You're going to get your homework from us. It's the same homework every single week. Take the Steps initiative. It's the impetus for this show, Beyond the Steps. This has been going on for 5 years. So if you haven't done your homework yet, please go do your homework. Bree has the link going across the bottom of the screen right now. It's totally free. It's modules on everything from nutrition, psychology, medicine and science, racism, sex abuse and prevention. All of that stuff is there, and it's free information. So please, please, please go and take that. Liz and Chris are with Dance Platinum. You can find all the information about them at danceplatinum.com. We have Liz. I think we have to get in touch with you at liz@danceplatinum.com. If people want to email you, Chris, is there a contact for you as well?
Chris@danceplatinum.com.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for being here today. We talked about the top post-competition takeaways for dancers, their parents, and studio directors. Thank you again to Liz Borum and Chris Suchian from Platinum Dance Events for being here. And you guys, we appreciate your time. I know you guys are really busy right now. We're talking all things cheer next week with Brantley Jatu from USASF. Don't miss it. And until next time, we hope you continue your journey beyond the steps. Everybody have a great weekend.
Bye.